it should be going about right about now. We should be good. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to night 2 of the Disc Jockey News Virtual Expo. I'm John Young with the Disc Jockey News, and I will let my 2 lovely and talented guests introduce themselves tonight. Vickie, can you start, please? Because we get to Mitch and we may not get the microphone back.
There we go. Good point. Hi, I'm Vickie Musni, certified personality trainer. What else did you want me to say?
Well,
that's it. You said it all right there.
Yeah, that might be. Yeah, that's. Yeah,
I'm used to our podcast format where we just do like the real brief introductions and then we start talking. But I can say more if you want.
Well, we're not sure how much time Mitch is going to need for his part of it tonight.
Okay.
We're live right now. This is recorded where I can go back and edit you, Vickie. Get a certified advisor, Mitch Taylor here. Thank you for having me on the show tonight, John. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Yeah, well, thank you guys for both being here, because this is a kind of a cool topic we're going to be digging into tonight, and I thought this was a really kind of neat, because between Mitch's training and work in the sales area and Vickie's work in the understanding of the human mind, this would be a really cool cool topic to dig into tonight, which we want to dig into the communicating with today's brides a little bit, but really getting ready to communicate to tomorrow's brides, the younger people come up, and brides, I should say brides and grooms. And that's what we're going to dig into tonight. But let's kind of, for those who don't know who you guys are, just kind of go into a little bit more detail, of what your background is in history, and then what you guys are doing with the creating connections thing. So Vickie, why don't you start and kind of give us that little bit of a bio?
You bet. My husband and I started a video business in 1996, about a month after we were married. So our 19th wedding anniversary is coming up in just a couple of weeks. And we started our business really right at the same time and as a direct result of a video that he had put together for just to show at our wedding for our guests. And people started coming up to us at our wedding saying, "That was great. Can we get your business cards?" So we started doing, little videos for other people, grew into full videography over the years, relocated to Reno in 2001, and really kind of stepped things up. And then around 2008, I started a certification course for teaching personalities and really started focusing on how to apply what I knew about personalities and things I was teaching in other arenas and things that I was using with my family, with my husband, in other organizations I was with, on my business and with clients, and kind of ended up finding a little niche for myself in the wedding industry with really trying to help people understand personality types, their own, but primarily the others types of the people that they work with. Because I think our basic tendency as people is to assume that everyone thinks like we do. And even if we don't think that, we tend to behave that way.
Sure.
We just go about our business, speaking the way we're used to speaking and assuming that other people understand where we're coming from and our point of view. And that works fine with the people that think like us, but a lot of people are different. And so that's kind of where I come into this scene with our Creating Connections, the podcast that Mitch and I do, is really taking people through a process to learn personality types, understand them better, without having to say, "Oh, hey, could you take this personality test?" But where you as a salesperson, as a business owner, can kind of look at your clients and notice key things and pick up on certain traits and then kind of zero in on what you think is most important to that client and start with that.
Yeah.
And then somewhere in the course of doing personality training, we started doing entertainment in our business about 3 years ago.
So you all put that together. The part is that kind of stood out to me as you're talking about your experience, and you had this personality training, or you need to develop that, and I almost detected it. I don't know exactly your wording for it, but basically I can envision you using this on your husband and trying to define him and trying to figure out what makes him. Mitch, did you hear that part too?
That's what I keyed on too. I'm psychoanalyzing my husband and my kids.
I was waiting for that. Yeah, she didn't mention the children. Boy, her husband, he just got thrown under the bus. Woo!
I did start. Started before I started doing wedding and business related things. I was teaching a lot of parenting classes and couples workshops and things like that. And it just kind of has become very much a part of how we communicate, even with our kids.
Yeah.
They all know their colors, and they'll say things to each other, like, stop being so green. Just, get up and go get the remote yourself, or whatever it is. And, and so they're really dialed in because they've grown up in a personality, environment with that just part of their daily vocabulary.
Yeah. That was a whole different
I can't help it. I mean, I do analyze everybody I meet and people I talk to. So.
And for a future show, we'll have her share her analysis of Mitch.
I'm not lying down right now.
Yeah. Mitch, let's jump to you. Let's get into it. Do you want to get into our topic?
Counseling. That's different.
Yeah, sure. I'm from Maine originally, small town in Maine, and then grew up, did radio for a couple of years. Went to work for Carnival Cruise Lines on board ship out of LA and Miami, and then spent 7 years in Metro Detroit. I moved to Michigan after I met my wife on board the cruise ships, and spent 7 years in Metro Detroit, did weddings, private parties, clubs. Moved up to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan in 2003, opened Tailored Entertainment, now Tailored Weddings. And then 2010, I took the company, 2007 took the company full time, 2010 name change to Tailored Weddings and expanded the company. And then for me, I've always been intrigued by the sales process, and I've studied Jeffrey Gitomer for a long, long, long time. I was reading his books back in, '03, I think. And I was very blessed to have the opportunity to kind of attach myself to Jeffrey's brand and become a first to Gitomer sales. And then now, this past February, having an opportunity to study intently with Jeffrey at a private workshop and a public workshop for 3 days in February, and become a Gitomer certified advisor. So now I've taken that knowledge and I'm helping DJs and event professionals everywhere with their sales skills, their marketing skills, their customer service skills through all the different facets that Jeffrey has available through his book writings and teachings.
Yeah, very neat. What a neat road to be going down. That'd be very cool.
It's awesome when you're sitting there and having Jeffrey make you crepes one morning on a Sunday. It's kind of cool.
And if you're Vickie, you're telling him what color he is, and then
right. He's a red, by the way.
He's a,
yes.
Hopefully that's a. Yeah, my microphone.
Thanks for breakfast, but he is a red.
You can blind type very well. Guys, I'm getting some feedback. We've got a chat board open. For those of you watching, if you're watching on djnvirtualexpo.com, when the player's up there, if you click in the lower right-hand corner on the YouTube little insignia that will pop up, that'll take you out to the YouTube page, and there's a chat on the right. And there's folks who are chatting right now. Mike is good. Thank you very much, KGB. I'm going to make sure I'm seeing that right because I'm not wearing my glasses. That's right. I am old, and I have cheaters by my desk. You guys can't see me holding up my cheaters right now, but everyone else out on the main world can. Yeah, I see
Jody Harris joined us tonight. So hello, Jody.
Hey, Jody. Nice. Yeah. For all those of you watching, last night we had a few little glitches, but they happened early, and everything went pretty smoothly after that. Tonight, it seemed like all those problems from last night happened again, and then they were kind of exasperated tonight. So that's why we're running late. We apologize for that, but I've got Mitch, I've got Vickie. Vickie, let's jump into it a little bit. Since you have been doing a lot of kind of studying on that personality traits, can you give us kind of a compare and contrast a little bit between people who are in their 40s and some of their personality traits of a 40-year-old, things you would expect from a 40-year-old, compared to what you would see from today's teenagers? Just a couple of things that stand out for you.
Well, the funny thing is, personality-wise, that spans generations. You're going to have, kids and teenagers of all 4 different personality types and some combination thereof. And it's going to be the same for, people our age and the older generations. So yes, while I agree that there are definitely some generational trends in terms of interest, I'm not convinced that it affects personality per se. So they'll still have the traits where they'll be either introverted or extroverted, or maybe they'll be more people focused or more task focused, but how they communicate is, I think, what's changing more than the personalities themselves.
See now, and
That makes sense.
It does, and the part that I guess I kind of think I'm seeing, and maybe this is just in what the teenagers that I'm in contact with, is it seemed to get a feeling that there's more introverts that are coming up than there were more of the extrovert, where the current generation is coming up were raised in front of a device, so they didn't have to interact in different ways, and they didn't have to develop the skills and become comfortable or to thrive in that face-to-face communication and that face-to-face interaction. And maybe again it's just some of the...
That's one way of looking at it. I think the other side of the coin, though, John, is that introverts have a way of being seen now that wasn't there 10 or 20 years ago. They have a way of communicating and interacting with the world on their terms. Whereas before social media and before the internet, they were much more isolated. Mm-hmm. But now they can be physically alone and in their deep thoughts, and then they have an avenue to share them that's comfortable. Whereas before it was just the extroverts were much more visible. So I think that's why we felt like there were. And now I think that introverts just have a better way of expressing their voice because there's so many options for how we communicate.
Great point. Mitch, what you've worked with a lot of people of different ages and such. Now, let's continue on that introvert and extrovert. What are you seeing, and how are your interactions with them differing?
It's kind of funny you say that. I definitely agree with Vickie that, our today's society of teenagers and young adults, they have that medium of social media, that platform to be able to use to communicate, that texting device, whatever the case is. So they have a way to express themselves in ways they never had before. But I think I agree also with Vickie that they haven't changed their personality type. Personality types are the same across the board, regardless of generation. And in fact, my office manager, Allison, it's weird how much we have in common from a standpoint of personality. We both are driven. We both are go-getters. We both are emotional at times, and it's funny how
very extroverted.
Yeah, it's funny how much her and I are alike. Yet I could be her father. I mean, I'm that old, compared to her. So it's funny how that.
I was going to say that, but
I wrote it down right here to say it too, but yeah. Scratch that.
Oh, it's true. Absolutely. And
it is.
And from that standpoint, it's funny to see the different generations, but that there's a lot of similarities too. That being said, I do think also, this is something I think I heard from Ben Miller, so shout out to Ben Miller, that social media has really leveled the playing field. We've gone back to that 1950s mentality of all gathering at the malt shop and sharing information. It's just now we can do it across the world digitally. Mm-hmm. Everyone knows everybody. It's like the Cheers thing, Social media has leveled that playing field, and everyone knows everyone now. We're not as far-flung as we were in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
But you do have more choice in how much information you share. And that's what I see that varies a lot from person to person. I mean, those of us that I'll call yellows, we are very unfiltered, and we post a lot of personal stuff on social media. And just because some of the younger generations may be using more media doesn't necessarily mean they're posting a lot of deep personal things. Some choose to, some don't. And that is still very personal and will depend a lot on what that individual feels comfortable with and the platform.
Well, and I think nothing is private anymore. You think you're private on social media, you're not private. I mean, just look at some of the latest hacks that have happened. I mean, just announced a couple days ago or whatever. I mean, nothing is private anymore in social media or in the internet in general.
Yeah.
Well, and I know, I post pictures of my kids and my family, and I set my settings so I know who I'm sharing with. But anybody can download those pictures or take a screen capture and, reshare them somewhere else. I get that. That's a risk I take. And, some personalities are okay with that, and others still kind of resist that. So,
well, I think we got to look at what's the latest medium that's coming out that our tomorrow's bride and today's bride are interacting with. And I know having networked with a lot of high schoolers and things like that, and there's a reason why my office manager is 21. There's a reason why I employ a 28-year-old female, 27-year-old female in my company, so we can stay young and stay to that generation and know what they're into. But you can't monetize a social media network like Yik and I think it's just important for us to understand where they're at, what they're doing, and then maybe, a lot of the young folks have bailed on Facebook and are going to Instagram or other sites like Yik and so how do we take that and, again, follow them, if you will, or make sure we have a presence there?
Mm-hmm.
I think what you said about hiring people, that's key for those of us that aren't getting any younger, but our clients are still relatively staying about the same age.
How old
It's
are you,
important
25,
for
Vickie?
us to be, yes,
25, yeah.
26. I just had a birthday.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
Happy birthday. So let's continue to look at that younger generation. Now, I think one of the differences between our age, which I'm over 26 by a couple of years, and the kids that are coming up now is that Mitch mentioned earlier that these kids have had a platform. And these kids have grown up basically having their own little platform, their own little stage. The introverts, as Vickie said, had a stage in which they could reach out and connect. One of my boys is kind of more of an introvert, and he has a whole world of friends, some semi-local, but they're all connected via that internet. How are we as a wedding entertainer? I used to be able to talk to a bride and sell her on, putting her on, it's her day, her stage, her beauty, a beautiful wedding. But now we're talking about a generation that has a stage and such. So how is communicating with them going to be different? Anyone?
You want to go first, Vickie, or me too?
Go ahead. I'm still formulating my thoughts.
My thought process on that is that we're going to cycle back. Everything that's old is new again. And I think it's a case of, because they're on their platform, they're on their phones, they're staring at that device, right? The only social interaction they're going to have is when they're out and they see us at a performance.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to go back and be able to rock their socks off at a performance and really cause a shift, a disruption in their actual thought process and be like, hey, that was really good. I like that. When I get married or when I go to have my quinceañera or sweet 16, that's what I'm going to do. Because how else are you going to break into that medium of head down, face into the Xbox or face into the iPad or whatever the case is? How else are you going to break that medium? So I think it goes back to our performance as a calling card. And still, again, you want to do everything we're doing right now in regards to Instagram and targeted Facebook ads and those kind of things too, absolutely. But I think it goes back to our performance with everything old is new again.
Well, and it's that balance. I think that's what I was thinking of. It's where technology and in face-to-face interaction overlap. It's, including in our planning forms, asking the couple about their website, or do they have a hashtag that they're planning to use, so that we're, meeting them there and we're incorporating that when we're posting, about the wedding, but also trying to bring them into face-to-face situations. Maybe, yes, it's great when you get referrals from other events, but sometimes, we've had calls, people just found us online, or we met them at a bridal fair, or we were referred by another vendor. I still want to push for face-to-face whenever I can. And I think that's important. And we try to create other opportunities. Like we did a couple of timeline planning workshops last year that were a lot of fun. And we picked, one of the fun, hip bars. In fact, it's the one I took you to, Mitch, when you were in town.
Okay.
That's where we do our timeline workshops.
Cool.
And right there on that side of the bar where where the screen is.
That's an amazing
And just
part.
do it in a fun environment that's, a place where a lot of them are hanging out when they, not everybody is hiding behind their, computer all day long and all night, but going to a fun place that's cool where we know, and creating opportunities for face-to-face and discussion and education and things like that. So that's, it's meeting and combining those two things.
Vickie, we're gonna go on a little bit of a tangent because there might be folks out there who aren't familiar with what a timeline workshop is. So I want to do two questions. Give us a 30-second kind of explanation of a timeline workshop, and secondly, would that process, do you think, have worked as well, better, or not as well if you would have had it, say, in a little banquet room in a small hotel somewhere? So what is it, and is that location really really key in the success of that workshop when you did it?
Okay. We may do them differently from other people, but basically we looked at it as an opportunity to walk our couples through the thought process that needs to go into their wedding weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And we invited couples that we met, not just couples that we are currently working with. So for us, it was kind of an advertising tool. We invited everybody that we met at the wedding fair. We did it 2 weeks later, and then we did another one another month later. And we just started with what goes in the day before, thinking about rehearsal and when's the best time of day to do it, what your options are, what are the advantages, how long should a rehearsal be, what are your options for a rehearsal dinner. And then we were able to showcase some of the things that we do as entertainers, that we do as videographers, that are options for them, but it was really from an educational standpoint. Even
Sure.
people that didn't hire us could learn something from it.
Nice.
And then we literally walked through, the whole day, from what time of day should you have your, bridal party arrive? Where are you getting ready? Have you thought about how long it takes to do hair and makeup for all of these people? What time do you want your vendors to arrive? If your photographer is an hourly package, do you really want her getting there at 7 in the morning when your makeup lady does?
Yep.
Do you really want to have your makeup done at 7 in the morning when you have a 4 o'clock in the afternoon ceremony? Let's think through some of these things and potential problem areas.
Sure.
So for us, it was definitely twofold. It was educating couples, we hope, and then we ended up booking several of them. So as far as the location, the reason I did it, we have a relationship with that particular venue. I did not have to pay anything, which was great because I didn't have to charge anything.
Right.
We just said, hey, this is a free educational opportunity. It kept my costs really low. I did buy food. I brought in appetizers because that particular location does not serve food, and everybody was on their own for drinks, but I had appetizers set up. And then I could, just pass on the information to them. And some of them came and said, thank you for the information. I'm working with another DJ already, but now I have some more questions that I want to ask him.
Sure.
And others of them said, we didn't think we wanted video, but when you were showing us those samples of some of the weddings that you've done, we want to talk to you about adding video.
Nice.
We hadn't really thought about that yet. So from a vendor perspective, it was great, but it was just creating another opportunity to sit down face to face with some of the couples that, we wanted to get to know better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And
that was more than 30 seconds.
No, that's quite all right. That's quite all right. But the venue itself, now you said, was kind of a like a little bar of some sort, more of a relaxed bar atmosphere, correct?
Yeah.
And
really cool.
And I wonder if, again, because I've heard people who have done some workshops and things, and they've tried to do it in kind of a banquet hall situation, and they weren't attended as well. And I wonder if there was a level of success.
It's a neutral location.
That's, I guess, maybe what I'm headed for. Yeah.
To me.
A neutral location where they serve beer to keep the guys happy. Wait, that's
yes, it was groom friendly and it was neutral. People could come in there and not feel like, oh, well, I already have my venue, so I don't want to, go to this other venue because they're going to try to sell me on this location. But it was a very neutral location and comfortable and casual. They don't even have regular chairs. Everybody's on couches and these cool benches. And, it made it for just a nice interactive environment.
Yeah.
And I pointed out, because mostly we were meeting brides at the wedding shows. Some of them do, drag their fiancés there. But I just tell them, hey, this is a really groom-friendly place,
Yeah,
get the guys
sure.
to come out, because I'd rather speak to both people.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Even before any official sales pitch. So.
Now, Mitch, when you're meeting with couples and such, now you do most of your meetings, you have an office that you do most of your meetings at. Now, how are you finding, because you've been in business for a few years, of course, comparing to your meetings with the younger couples today to 10 years ago, let's say, are you seeing a difference in the communication techniques needed for today as opposed to what we did, 10 years ago?
Yeah, for me, the younger brides really, they're not my target client, if I can be point blank.
Mm-hmm.
My target client is a bride who's 25 to 28, who has, 24 to 28, some of that ballpark, who has gone away. She's graduated from college. She's moved away for a couple years. She's experienced some of the finer things in life, and now has moved back to the area and doesn't want the same old DJ she's seen all over the place. She wants something different and unique.
Right.
So my brides that hire us are typically a little more experienced and not 19 or 20 years old getting married. Now, that being said, have I had 19 and 20-year-olds getting married? Yes, absolutely. I think it comes down to discovering what's most important for them about their wedding day, and then helping them to make that choice of what that is, and letting them kind of play out their day by making those choices, helping them lay out how it might flow, what it might be like with that experience of those memories, and then letting them decide if it's entertainment that's really important to them or not. And that's okay if it's not.
Mm-hmm.
But at least they've had some information from us. We've been able to discuss their day and how we can help and see if we're a right fit or not. And at the very end of the day, they leave some great ideas for their wedding. And if they get a chance to go with us, great. If they don't, that's cool too. But at least that helps someone hopefully not have a wedding disaster. And before I finish, I have to say hi to Bill Herman. So he just texted me and said, don't say hi. So, hi, Bill.
Hi, Bill. But Mitch, we're starting to work with a client,
Yeah.
you have a lot of different techniques that you use to share information, to collaborate. I mean, you do a lot of that online.
Yeah, we do a lot of it online, and even this is part of the workshop, but I'll give a quick little nugget here.
Yeah.
I think that oftentimes when DJs or event professionals, when they bring a client into their office and they sit down, or whether it's a Starbucks or a Panera or whatever, you offer them coffee, you offer them water, absolutely. And then most of us have been trained to dive into the actual meeting at that point and start asking them questions about them. So how'd you guys meet? And where's your first date? And I think that's backwards. If I could be point blank, I know it's complete opposite of what we've been trained, but think about your client at that point. They literally just walked in the door. You offered them coffee or water or whatever, and you sat them down. Then you started just nailing off questions to them. And yes, you've done it in a conversational manner, but you're missing opportunities for greater connections if you don't actually take the time and ask them one more time, so how did you hear about us?
Mm-hmm.
And you may be thinking, I've already got that information. It's on my DJ event planner sheet, shameless plug, that they filled in for us, or it's written down from my salesperson. That's great, but think about how many places they may have seen you. They may have got your information from a bridal shop. They may have heard about you on an advertisement at the venue. They may have heard about you from their best friend who was at the salon and the hairstylist mentioned you. So you're missing that opportunity to gain that other connection and say, my hairdresser recommended you too. Oh, great. Who's your hairdresser?
Mm-hmm.
And now you're able to follow up with that hairdresser and say, hey, thank you for the referral from so-and-so. I really appreciate it. Stop by with some coffee for her and the staff or something.
Yeah.
And you're able to make a better, stronger connection, which you wouldn't have gotten if you hadn't asked that question again at the meeting. And then typically after I ask that question, we fall into the line of, well, what do you know about us as a company?
Mm-hmm.
And when you find out what they know, now you're able to fill in the blanks. You can chat a little bit about the company and the history and give your clients, your potential clients, time to acclimate to their surroundings before you dive into really making it all about them from that point on.
And that's especially important for those blues and greens that you're meeting with, those introverted personality types that take longer to warm up.
Yeah.
I think it's good advice for any client, but if you are starting to analyze their personality type and you just get that vibe that, they do need more time, shift the focus on you for a little bit, and that's okay because it's not stealing anything from them. They need that. Those personality types need that.
The only one it's not going to work with is the strong red, where they want to dominate the conversation all the time.
Yep.
Well, and they're in a hurry.
Yeah, and they could be in a hurry, but it's important to realize your personality types. And again, you're not going to psychoanalyze, but it's all a part of a process that I developed with Sales and Solutions, which is the first step, researching your client. And Vickie's book, Personalities for Business, goes kind of hand in hand with that too.
Yeah, for sure. Because once you understand the different personality traits and how to communicate with them at the level in which they're comfortable, it definitely is a game changer when you get into face-to-face meetings. And that's on our chat board right now. We had a lot of people who are asking about, talking about the face-to-face meetings and, Do you do that with some of your clients, all of the clients? How does that all work out? And I guess let's just talk about that for just a second. It's going to change our pace just a little bit.
Sure.
But Mitch, you mentioned what your typical, or you've got that kind of your model or your optimal client. When it comes to the pre-booking time, what kind of a meeting?
Yeah.
What percentage of the calls and such are you meeting with and taking that meeting step with, and how does that work out for you?
Well, for me, it's a case of you want to meet with as many as you can, and I try to keep that first contact short and sweet, and go for the meeting. You want to find out how they heard about you, what they're looking for, and then, okay, great, I'd love to hear more. When's good for us to get together and chat more? And then try to close the meeting there. Now, some of our clients are, as I mentioned before, right? My ideal client is moved away,
Yep.
and now she's coming back to have her wedding. Well, she may be living out of state or downstate, lower Michigan. So at that point, I may have to have a Skype conversation with her like this.
Yes.
That's okay. That's not a big deal. We do a Skype call, and I treat it just the same as if they were sitting in front of me. There's no difference at that point. It's just a case of, instead of showing them a video in my office, I'm sending them a link to YouTube, and they're watching the video on their computer.
Sure.
There's no difference beyond that from that standpoint. In regards to a closing ratio, I firmly believe that your closing ratio, you should try to have be around 2/3. And that will help you maintain a strong business model from that standpoint, and be able to keep your rates up where they should be, and so you're not losing too many in regards to your business plan.
And when you're talking closing ratio, Mitch, you're talking about the number of people that you meet with to the number that sign a contract, not the number of people who call to signing a contract, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Number of people you meet to the number of people who sign a contract should be 2/3.
Okay. Because
And then you got to look at your ratio and see how many people do you have to get in the funnel to be able to have a 2/3 closing ratio.
Yeah. Precisely, and I'm seeing some of the guys on the chat board here referring, that they've gotten only a couple of calls here, a couple of calls there, and haven't, as you just mentioned, the funnel. That funnel is that if I get 10 calls, I meet with 5 of them, and if I book 1, obviously that's not a great ratio, but that's the idea of the funnel. For those of you who don't know, 10 calls going into a smaller number that you meet with that go into. In Mitch's case, if it would be a 10 and a 5, and then he would want to be booking about 3 of those 5. To really, 3 to 4 to be in that successful ratio. So that's kind of an interesting thought, and maybe we'll head.
Do you want to explain further, Mitch? Why? Sorry, John.
Go ahead. No, please go ahead.
Go ahead.
Do you want to explain, Mitch, why you're not recommending that they're booking every single one they meet with?
Well, you don't want to book everyone you meet with, because
I know.
Probably not every client is for you. Number one. Number two, if you're booking every single client you meet with, and your closing ratio, your rate, I should say, is probably too low.
Yeah, your rates are high.
And especially from a standpoint, again, if you're a single op, there's different factors here, single op, multi-op. But if you're a single op or a small boutique multi, then the reality is you're leaving money on the table. And even a multi-op, you're leaving money on the table at that point if you're booking every single person you talk to. I mean, I can look back and see that, ironically enough, Tailored Weddings turned away 4 other weddings for this coming Saturday, which I don't like to do, but we didn't have the staff to cover it. So again, we got to look at numbers and look at what we got to do to build up our staff to be able to handle that kind of increase.
Okay, I've got a question.
Do we have questions on the chat, John?
I do, and that's so I apologize if you. Mitch and Vickie can't see my camera's not working, so they can't see me, but you guys are able to see me. And I'm looking down and looking to the side. I'm reading the chat, and then I'm making some notes here. The question is on related to pricing and the meeting. They've got a lot of people who are wanting, people are wanting the price before the meeting. Now let's. I'm going to actually Vickie, I'm going to toss this to you. If we're talking a red personality, calls you, wants a price.
Yep.
Give me a little bit of a.
Don't give it to them.
Yep.
If you don't give them something, they're not going to want to meet with you.
Give us the 30-second.
And they'll call.
Yeah, tell us what a red personality. Give us the 30-second overview of a red personality.
The red personalities, they're the high energy, very driven, know what they want, just the facts people. Yes, like that. It's a very red face right there. And so, yeah, those people, if they're going to come to you, they're going to push for that price. And at least if you don't even give them a starting ballpark figure, you need to give them some kind of number, or they're going to give up on you and move on.
Okay.
Because reds are all about efficiency. They don't want to waste their time. So if they're really high red, I feel like your best bet is to give them something, show them that you're trying to answer their questions. But, maybe say, hey, our packages start at this amount, we customize everything, or give them a range if you can. I know there's a lot of different schools of thought on this. Mm-hmm. For me, I tend to give more information than a lot of people because of my travel schedule and my other businesses. I really limit the number of weddings we do.
Yes.
And we're not set up whereas Mitch is a multi-op, he's got a lot more options. So, he's doing a higher number of events.
So let's.
If you were going to say something, Mitch.
Yeah, I think you well, Mitch, I'm going to turn it over to you in your discussion. Yeah. How you would handle a phone call from a red personality style and wanting to know price.
Here's the thing, in regards to a red, and oftentimes you get the phone call, you haven't had a chance to do any research on your client.
Yeah, that's correct.
That phone call comes in, you don't know if they're red, blue, yellow, green, you don't know what kind of color they are or what their personality trait is. So oftentimes you have to gauge that right off the bat with how they approach the phone call from you and what questions they ask. And not to get too, again, psychoanalytical, because you can talk yourself out of a free sandwich. But I think the point is, if someone asks me for price on the phone once, I might defer and say, go back to how they heard about me and try to get that warm fuzzy going again. If they ask for it twice, guess what? I'm giving them a starting range.
Yeah.
Because if you don't cover it on that second ask, you lose any chance you're going to try to win that sale, in my opinion. Anyway.
Yep.
And again, the phone call, like I said, we can sit here and say, well, what do you for red? What do you for blue? Well, the reality is, most times you don't know what color is going to you on the phone at first.
By the book. You'll have a better guess.
Shameless plug.
Well,
but still, go ahead, John.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Is Vickie's that shameless plug, which I think I saw one of those before, is saying DJ event planner, but the shameless plug for her book is actually a really good tip, because there's just so much information when you understand the different personality styles. For my case, I found out that I don't work well with some personality types, and it's just easier for me to admit that and understand that I at one time probably worked much better with those, but not as much today, because I find myself in a different position. So buying the book is actually really good advice. It isn't being a shameless plug.
No, I meant it. And honestly, the reason I wrote the book is because every time I spoke for a couple of years, people kept asking me, this is great information. Where do we get your book? And so finally I wrote one. But it's really just all about getting the information into the hands of more people, making it more accessible, so more people can understand their clients better and offer better results.
Well, and again, I've taken many other personality tests over the years, whether it be disc profile or things like that. And again, Vickie's a good friend of mine, but the reality is that she breaks it down to very simple, easy to understand ways. So you don't have to think, D is for dynamic, and forget about it. Red, blue, green, yellow, I'm in. Perfect. Yeah. Red, yellow, I'm in. Perfect. Yeah. It works. It works for me to be able to understand. So.
Yeah, it's accessible. And that's what I feel like I bring to the table and into this conversation is a simple system that you can, learn the gist of it in 5 or 10 minutes. You give me an hour, you take an hour seminar, or you can read the book in an hour, and you'll have a lot more understanding. Spend a day with me in a workshop, and you'll be ready to analyze everybody you meet.
And your spouse will love you forever for that one. You know what? You're being a little bit. Vickie, a question here from MJ. MJ's watching tonight. Shout out to MJ, who's our DJN TV guy who does the Rewind Report, which will be coming up again next week because we're off this week. MJ's question was: are there a couple of different personality colors that basically don't play well together?
Yes, this is a great question. Typically, yellows get along with other yellows really, really well. Yellows are that loud, sunny, bright, outgoing personality type. Mm-hmm. And blues tend to love working with other blues. They're the quiet, introspective, neat and tidy, very detail-oriented, perfectionist tendencies. So they like working with people that share those same values. Greens are like the most easygoing of all the personalities. I'm married to a green. He's amazing. But greens, they love working with other greens, but greens just get along with just about everybody.
Uh-huh.
Reds are the most likely to butt heads with other reds. It's just the way it is. If you happen to be driven in the same direction, you can work well together. Mitch and I are both like half red. And when we're focused and we need to do a podcast or we're working on a project or, we get that we're on the same direction.
Yep.
But there's other times and other reds in my life. I have a daughter who's a red and my mother was a red. So I've got generations of just challenging relationships to build off of. In fact, I'm going down to Vegas next week because an engineering company hired me to come down. They just did this big climate survey, and they had all of these red flags, different red, but just problem areas that this outside analysis company, figured out at them, and the people are unhappy and they're not getting along. And so they called me and said, hey, can you come down and do some personality training and coaching and help us address some of these issues? So the first thing I did was send them all the in-depth personality analysis, and I got those results back and I went, 12 out of the 15 scored either first or secondary personality types as red. Mm-hmm. No wonder you have problems. No wonder you've got a power struggle.
Yeah.
Yes, you need help learning how to communicate better. So yeah, reds, that's going to be your challenge right there.
They don't play
because
well.
reds know what they want and they know what's right and they know the best way to do it. So
Juan Mauricio is making a comment that he's he's green, but you rub him the wrong way and he becomes red. So Juan.
Okay.
Hey, Juan.
The Incredible Hulk is the epitome of the analogy for the green. And we actually analyze all the Avengers in the workshop and all their personality types. But if you just think about Banner and how peaceful and mellow he is and how he just kind of takes everything in stride, he's your classic green personality. And, and the greens that I know can be like that too. But it's not that they don't have opinions or they don't have feelings or you can't, push them too far. And that's exactly what happens to Banner. And then, he reaches that point and he becomes the Hulk. And greens do have that potential inside of them.
Using the Hulk, we'll just use little images of the Avengers for the 4 colors. That'd be great. I'd read that.
You need to take the all-day workshop, John.
It'd be awesome. Okay, let's jump back in. We've got about 10 minutes remaining before 9 o'clock, and then we've got the show. Because we still have people asking questions when it comes to the pricing when people are calling and doing that. One area in which I've got people when they're calling and they're looking for like a flat fee. How much do you charge? Because it's got to be that one. How do you to move the conversation from having that one flat fee? And I know Vickie alluded to a little bit, giving a price range for a red, but how do you change that conversation or to move it away from, them looking for a number in the little box to maybe a price range or maybe even to the point where the price becomes less of a fixation for them? So, Mitch, you want to give us a start on how you do that?
Take this one, yeah.
So, for me, it's a question of how did they hear about you and moving off a price. If you can't move off a price, then say, well, I'm sure you want to meet whomever you're handing a live microphone to in front of all your friends and family, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
And then that will, again, if you have to get them off price, you have to throw them a curveball. You have to throw them something that makes them think, oh, well, yeah, I guess I should do that. So is there all the other prices that you're considering, are you planning on sitting down and meeting with them? Or are you basing the decision solely on price? And in that case, well, we're basing our decision solely on price. Okay, well, we may not be the right fit for you,
right.
But I'd love to at least give you some ideas and see if we can help you in some way. And then go for the meeting again. Or another standpoint, you can quote that beginning price if you want to. I know that's what my mentor Mark Farrell would say. He always just throws out his price. And from a standpoint also, you can say, don't you think your wedding is worth that amount? And then you get in the conversation of who's taking responsibility for the success of your event. Mm-hmm. And then you throw that curveball. And it's about making the client think more than just the price, the price, the price, the price.
Yeah.
Because if they're just hard on price, then there's really nothing you're going to say that's probably going to win that argument.
Well, it's helping them see the bigger picture. And so asking those questions that get them to think about the overall success of the event and how important entertainment is to them and what they want their guests to remember. If you can steer that in that direction.
And maybe it's not. Maybe entertainment is not the most, and that's okay.
Yeah.
There are plenty of parties that have backyard barbecues and, just an after church reception at the local church hall in the basement. That's okay. In fact, Allison, one of my MCs, is doing an event like that this weekend.
Uh-huh.
They're having a little post-church reception, but then they're going to a banquet hall and having their reception for the rest of their close friends afterwards. And so they didn't want fancy bells and whistles and things like that. So we quoted them one of our basic packages, and they were happy with it.
Mm-hmm.
But we got off the price discussion, found out what was important to them, and then gave them what was important to them and showed that we were the best fit for them. I think, again, if you can do anything to get off the price question, whether it be asking them what's most important or who is taking responsibility for the success of your event, if that's in fact what you do. I know not all DJ companies take responsibility for the success of the event, so please don't start using that as a tagline.
Yes, exactly.
If you don't mean it.
Don't do that. That's just what we do at Taylor Weddings. But everyone's different what they offer. So.
Oh, for sure. And that's as we're talking through this, there for some of the guys out there or the gals who are offering just basically this is my show. It's a 6-hour show, and you're going to get the same thing, the same show each time. We were all there at one time, and that could be a great spot to spend your whole career if that's what you do. So some of the information and things we're talking about in Mitch's case, you've got more than just this one little package that you sell. You've got a variety of different options and different things that can be done and really could be, customized to be completely different from any wedding that you've done for the whole season, if they would like.
That's what we specialize in. And again, if you are more of a, for lack of a better term right now, basic setup, you do the same show every time out, there's nothing wrong with that as long as that's what you're selling the client. Where I start to have a problem is when, we do everything they do except for cheaper. Don't do that. Just don't do that. Sell who you are and what you do. And if you take the time and take care of your clients and you meet with them in person, absolutely tell them that you absolutely will meet with them, take time and take care of them. But don't, it's important to under-promise and over-deliver, I think, is key.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I think that's one of the things that has stayed consistent with any industry or business, but especially in our wedding area, is that under-promising and over-deliver is going to give you a good results in the end when it comes to referrals and a warm fuzzy from the bride and groom.
Yeah.
That's just true in life. That's just good advice in all areas.
It really is. It really is. And if I could get my,
good at dating.
Yeah, or you're trying to get your teenagers to wash or clean up the kitchen, and could they maybe wash the dishes and sweep the floor? Those little things that just go a little beyond the. Am I sharing too much? Maybe I should use the personality profile of my children.
How many kids do you have, John?
6 is still, or 6 and holding, so we're good with that.
Well,
good.
I don't have any this week. Mine are gone.
Oh no. They're all playing it. All the
4 of them to grandpa's house.
For those of you who were watching last night, you might have heard at one point in time during the video where a door went opened and bang. That was I think that was my 6-year-old who decided to come into the office while Dad is doing a live. Yeah, that's right. They're outside having fun right now. So.
All right, baby, going without a net. Awesome.
Yeah, that's about it. Trying to look at some of the questions here. The really pricing has been a big part, and you guys are in discussion.
Okay, well, since we talked about my book, can I talk about Mitch's book?
No.
You know that he's got this amazing book coming out in a couple of weeks called Sales for Event Pros. I've had the privilege of reading it through several times already, but he gives step by step what you need to do through that whole process and covers all of the typical pricing issues and all of the other objections and what to do, how to handle each one. Just super practical, and it's a good quick read, but you can go back to it over and over again. I've read it 4 times already.
And actually, I
wasn't planning a shameless plug, but
yeah.
Sorry,
Well,
I'm just being real.
And
It's helpful. It's good stuff. I wouldn't say it if it wasn't. I don't love you that much.
oh, that's great. Oh,
all right, so what are some of the other pricing questions? I want to help people here.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they're talking about, I think, the idea of offering that greater value. We're talking right now. I'm seeing some people talking about the pricing and trying to get, we talked about them trying to get the bride and groom to get away from that pricing, but really the idea that we're moving from a basic, the couples are calling and saying, hey, I just want a basic DJ. I just want that. And really, I hear that an awful lot, but what their idea of basic DJ is.
So I was going to say, what is their idea of a basic DJ?
And I think that's so difficult for them to put down, but the phraseology of basic DJ is really easy because I want a basic car, or I want a reliable car is easy to say. Well, what does that mean? Well, for me, a reliable car is a lot different than it might be for someone else. And that, as your question's spot on. What do they mean by basic DJ? And that's, I think one of the things that, from my perspective, when I'm talking to that, that's where I have to start asking questions, and I think that's where you're going to head. So let's jump to your questionology of that concept.
Well, to me, the way to differentiate yourself in the marketplace there is, okay, here's a basic DJ. Here's a basic DJ who boob slapped his assistant at a wedding. Here's a basic DJ who didn't play the right first dance song at a wedding. And then you can showcase yourself if you have video of yourself performing at an event. Video is a game changer. And if you don't have video of yourself performing at an event right now, you're missing out. I mean, today's day and age of bride, I believe this came from Jim Storm. I want to make sure I give credit where credit is due. But today's day and age of bride has grown up. Every single song has had a video.
That's right.
Yes.
Or video
So
has been
true.
a true focus of their lives with MTV and Real World and reality.
Even their conversations, they're on FaceTime, not on the phone.
Yeah,
Like, everything has visual.
So they need to be able to see video of their MC performing in front of a crowd. And again, otherwise they're handing a live microphone to a complete stranger in front of all their friends and family.
Yep.
If a basic DJ just to show up, play music, eat masticholi, hit on bridesmaids, drink alcohol, and go home, is that what you want for your wedding? And just ask the client that and let them answer. And in most cases, when I ask my client that question, they say, well, no. Okay, then cool, you're at the right place. We don't do that.
Well, and when you were talking earlier about how to get more people into your sales funnel, I think it ties back into this, because as entertainers, as DJs, as masters of ceremony, you have the opportunity to advertise without advertising. And so the best thing you can do to invest in that is to invest in your own performance, because every time you're performing, you've got how many other potential clients sitting in the room watching you. And I think so often the people that we try to work with, we just need to educate them, because they're seeing mediocre and they think that that's all there is. In fact, my husband did a video for a couple on Saturday who had another entertainment solution that wasn't really a great solution. And he just was so frustrated, and it was hard to video this, this wedding, and the DJ was so bad. And finally I just looked at him and I said, how bad was he? Was he bad enough that everybody else knew that he was bad? And he said, no, probably not. And that's good in the sense that I don't want to wish evil on, or horrible things on anybody's reception, but that's bad that mediocre is so the norm.
Very much so.
Well,
and
it
so
goes
if
back
you want to set,
what's their baseline? What's their baseline DJ? And you got to understand what their baseline is and then go from there. I know we're butting up against the clock here, John.
Yeah, one more thing before we wrap up. Mitch, people are talking about price. Do you think it's something that they need to adjust their prices, or they should be more concerned about what their prices are, or do you think it's something that they would be better off instead of really worried about? Say if they're at $750 and they're thinking they need to go to $600. Would you recommend them to change their pricing, or would you recommend them to do something else, like to maybe change their or look at their sales side of it, or do something? What would be the recommendation for a quick fix or for the best fix?
If you can't change the people, change the people. I don't mean to be vague on that, but that if the people that you're marketing to aren't hiring you at $700, $650, whatever the number is, then market to a higher level of clientele who will see the value of what you do. I would never tell you to go down in price, with one caveat. If you're breaking into a brand new marketplace, when I first broke into Escanaba, we priced out at $1,000 just to get our foot in the door, to get our break into a new market, and then grow from there. But beyond that one little caveat, I would never tell someone to charge less than you do right now. In anything, you need to show them more value and improve your sales skills and get
your
more
performance
people,
skills.
Yeah, to get more people in your funnel. Randy Bartlett says that if you don't have at least one person on average booking you from each wedding, then your performance skills are not good enough. And he's absolutely right, on average. And in some weddings you may get 0 referrals from, and other weddings you may get 8. And that's just reality. But
for sure,
on average, you should be booking at least one from every single wedding you perform. And I really feel DJs need to invest in sales and performance skills, and that's where most of the investment is needed. And there's other facets too that we're going to discuss later, but it's sales and performance, man. That's key.
They
for
go
most
hand
people.
in hand.
I think that I would, and we had a great question. Michael Burke just threw out one, and we won't be able to get to it. He's got some great questions, like on demographics, how demographics fit into it, some different classes, and we won't be able to dive into those tonight because we're at 9:01. If you're watching this and you're on the DJVirtualExpo.com, what you need to do is you need to do a hard refresh, because I just put the tonight's show up. You go and you hold the shift key down and you click on the little refresh thing to the right of your URL bar, and that will bring up the player for tonight. If you're watching on YouTube, go back to the main website and refresh it. You should be able to see the show, but we are out of time. Vickie,
That
Mitch,
was fun, though.
thank you very much. Thank you very much. You guys had
Michael, send us that question offline if we can help you.
Yeah,
let's talk about that in our podcast.
that's a great idea. Great idea. How can I get a hold of you guys for the podcast? What's your best way, Mitch or Vickie?
They can hit us up on our YouTube channels. My YouTube channel is youtube.com/Mitch Taylor GCA. It's also posted on each of Vickie's and my websites. Mine is mitchtaylor.net, and Vickie's website is VickieMusni.com.
And to get to their shows, you can go out to djntv.com, the Disc Jockey News TV channel, and all the shows are on the left side. You can click on that, and it has a menu of all the different shows. You can go to Creating Connections. From there, it'll take you over to YouTube, and you'll be able to track them down that way and leave comments and such on their videos, because they've got some great information there. Generally, what it is that Vickie's giving you really good information, and Mitch is there to be
eye candy.
Eye candy. That's the.
I don't think that's what John was going to say, but
I'll tell the jokes.
Once again, guys, thank you much for being on tonight. Thank you for watching out there. The show is up and ready to go. Enjoy its business. We've got a lot of great stuff for you tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Central with our Tuesday night with Ben Stowe coming in on Wednesday night. Woo, it'll be a great time. So thank you once again for watching.
Thanks, John.
And now we're going to figure out how to shut this all off here. Good night.